Welcome to part 2 of the biggest video series I have ever attempted. I am going to recreate the entire Istvaan V Dropsite Massacre, one of the most brutal battles in the Warhammer history, and I'm going to do it in full cinematic tabletop form.
In part 1, we laid the groundwork. 11 legions, 11 Primarchs, a fully custom 80 square foot battlefield, and a whole host of characters from the legendary down to the forgotten.
If you haven't seen part 1, do make sure to go and check it out, as it's the beginning of everything we're about to do here.
We've already seen good progress. The Word Bearers, Alpha Legion and Death Guard are ready. The Raven Guard are in motion. Peachy Tips delivered the Therian cohort. I have some converted Primarchs, and thanks to the crew at War Scenery, the terrain is now stacked, printed and waiting to be built.
Just to give you guys a sense of time and where this whole thing is at, it's filmed over a 6-month time frame. My brother was here at the start of March in the last episode. I flew over to Wales at the start of April, and as of now it's mid-April. Lachlan arrives mid-June to film the whole series, so I've got about 6 weeks to 2 months to get everything finished, but there is still an absolute mountain of work to do, and I'm really starting to feel the pressure.
Which brings us to one of the most important parts of this entire campaign. The Iron Hands. Up until now, they've been little more than plastic and primer, quietly assembled off camera late at night after the shop shut and the kids were in bed. Alongside the Emperor's children, they are central to this story. At the heart of the Dropsite Massacre stands Ferrus Manus, and beside him, the Morlocks, his personal honour guard. Veterans of Clan Avernii, Terminator armoured, forged in battle and utterly unyielding. Leading them is Gabriel Santar, first captain, equerry, and one of the last voices Ferrus Manus ever heard. When Fulgrim betrayed his brother, it was the Morlocks who stood in his path. They didn't hesitate, they didn't run, and they died fighting. I wanted these models to feel worthy of the story they're part of, so I took the time to convert them properly, giving them the weapons they're actually described with in the lore. Starting with 20 Gorgon Terminators, I kit-bashed them using Lightning Claw arms from the Tartarus kit. It took a bit of carving to get the Gorgon shoulder pads to fit, but overall the process was pretty easy. The Lightning Claws actually gave the older Gorgon models a nice visual balance, less clunky than the original Axe and Bolter setup. Sleeker, more brutal, just more Morlock. The tricky part was sourcing the parts. In the end, I had to open up 2 full Tartarus boxes just to grab enough arms. Expensive, but worth it. Probably. I also put together a custom standard bear because, let's be honest, banners from every legion flushing across the board, that's going to look amazing when the full battle comes together. With these conversions done, I hit everything with a matte black base coat. 20 Morlocks, 30 Tacticals, 10 Immortals, tanks, Mechanicum allies, and a few additional characters. This force is meant to represent the best Ferrus could muster on short notice, rushing ahead of the main force, desperate to confront Fulgrim before the trap fully closed. When it came to the paint scheme, I experimented. A lot. But eventually, I landed on something I really liked. The Vallejo Shifter Dark Green Tin. It's meant to go over a gloss base, but I preferred the look straight over matte. It gives this gritty, flat, metallic finish. I applied it using a zenithal approach, letting the deep shadows stay dark, while catching the highlights with layered coats through the airbrush. It's quick, consistent, and honestly just looks cool. This is the Gabriel Santar model I brought back from my trip to Little Legend in the last episode. The effect is seriously cool. I'll be adding some refinement with brushwork later, but even as it stands, I think the result is good. The colour shifts depending on the angle, black, green, and even a bronzy tin. Now it is tough to capture on camera, but it looks fantastic on film and even better in person. The Iron 10th is finally starting to come together, and it feels great to be laying down some paint at last. There's still a long road ahead, but this marks a solid step forward. With so much still to do, I think it's time to bring in some help. You saw her in the last episode, well, Ciara's finally joining the effort. We're making steady progress on the legions, but the key figures are still missing.
Yay, it's me, your favourite voiceover person. I'm here painting Conrad Curze. Ollie gave me Conrad Curze, which I was super happy about because I haven't painted any Night Lords before. And I actually think he's the coolest Primarch, or at least I do at the moment. Probably because I painted him, so I looked up all his lore and everything like that, and I just think it's really cool. I had to use the Warhammer website to have a picture of this on screen so I could twist it around and see what parts are supposed to be what colour, because some of this is super detailed and you don't really know what is what. Painting on stream is a challenge, especially when you're trying to get around and do those little finer details. But we managed it.
With deadlines looming, reinforcements have arrived, this time courtesy of my brother Joe, who you might remember from the last video. After heading out here in March, I gave him a mission: build enough World Eaters to represent the Legion at the Dropsite Massacre. Troops, Marines, you name it. Well, he delivered. Aside from a bit of base cleanup and a few minor fixes, the World Eaters are here. Joe really stuck to the classic Heresy era blue and white, but gave it a twist. A sort of softer pastel blue that really makes the models pop. True to form, the army is all about close combat, led by Khan and his command squad. Yes, complete with another banner. Woo! He's also gone all out with custom details. Bare-armed Marines swinging two-handed axes, rampagers with flails and chains mid-motion. Pretty much everything I wanted in a World Eater's force is here. So a huge thanks to Joe, the models look fantastic. That pale blue and white against the black sands is going to look incredible on the board. The only thing missing, Angron. Now, I know Joe's got one, Lachlan's got one, hell, even I've got one, so now it's a race to see who paints theirs first. But if I didn't manage mine, I do have one in the bank. Speaking of in the bank, that is another Legion ticked off the Legionometer. We now have 4 of the Traitor Legions done and finished. Excellent. Transfers. To prep for that, I gave all 180 models a coat of gloss varnish. The process is simple enough, just multiple thin layers allowing each to dry, but with that many models it did take quite a while. Then it was time to break out the transfer sheets. The Games Workshop Horus Heresy Legion sets are generally solid, but I'd put the Raven Guard sheets towards the bottom tier. The symbol options come in white, black and silver, which is an odd choice, and personally, I'm not a fan of the silver, so I had to use multiple sheets just to get enough basic Legion symbols. As always, when I'm doing this, I used Microset and Microsol. Absolutely essential for getting transfers to look good. My process is pretty straightforward. First, cut the transfers you need and set them on wet tissue to soak. While that's happening, apply Microset, the blue one, to the model's surface. Then, using tweezers or a brush, slide the decal off and position it. Once it's in place, apply Microsol to soften it so it conforms to the surface. For curved areas, this step is critical. I usually follow up with another round of Microsol after it dries, just to ensure everything sits flush. This stage took ages. Each model needed multiple decals, so that's about 400 in total, so it ended up taking most of a week. Once most of the transfers were dry, I made a decision. I wanted to break up the sea of black with a splash of white. There were 2 reasons for this. First, I felt the command characters needed something to help them stand out, and secondly, I didn't want to open a third transfer sheet. So I used the 2 thin coats white star paint, but any decent white would do. I kept the zenithal light approach, and the undercoats gave the white a cool bluish tint, which looked great. Then I used some of the black transfers, applying them the same way as before. The army's come on a long way now, and I'm really happy with the white accents. Just a subtle touch, but it feels right. If I'd sub-assembled the models, I might have been tempted to do one shoulder pad white on most of the tacticals, but honestly, I prefer how this turned out anyway. I want to represent the battle from the very beginning, and I imagine that when the Raven Guard landed at Istvaan, they would have been well ordered, despite their more unorthodox formations. And I think this is a good point to check in on this video's sponsor. If you're into Warhammer or just love tactical turn-based battles, then why not take a look at this video's sponsor? Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector is a fast-paced strategy game set in the grimdark future of the 41st millennium. You can command the noble Blood Angels or swarm the battlefield as the Tyranids. There's a full 20-mission campaign set after the devastation of Baal, plus skirmish mode where you can build your army, pick your enemies and choose from different mission types. For something deeper, Planetary Supremacy mode gives you a procedurally generated campaign map to conquer one battle at a time. They've also added new features like Demonic Incursion, which is a free survival mode against endless Khorne demons. And you've got Crusade mode, where you start with the basic army and level up your troops through escalating fights. If you're after more story, then the new Deeds of the Fallen DLC features the Sisters of Battle in a brutal war against the Orcs. Multiplayer is here too. Online, hot seat and asynchronous. However you want to play, it's got you covered. If you're curious, well, now's a great time to try it. Use the code Broadsword25 for 25% off the base game on Slytherin.com. Not Steam, Slytherin.com. Link is in the description. With that, let's get back to the video. Time to spotlight another collaborator. This time it's the wonderful Elston from Elston Nation. I first met him back at the Horus Heresy launch event 3 years ago, and I remember he also sent a huge batch of models to Lachlan for the Mark of Calth campaign we filmed. I knew I needed to include a detachment of the Adeptus Mechanicus. They were present at Istvaan V, so a small force representing the Mars Forges would make sense. One of the best things about these models is their flexibility. They can slot into any faction, traitor or loyalist, depending on who needs bolstering on the board. I suspect they'll end up supporting the loyalists since there are only 3 legions and I might need a bit more board presence. Elston has done a cracking job on these. I think they look fantastic. If you want to see how he pulled it off, be sure to check his video out in the playlist. Thanks again, Elston. They look amazing. You might recognise just a few of these models from earlier. It's one of the stages I've been really looking forward to. These are the headline characters, the ones everything revolves around, and finally getting to them feels like hitting a bit of a landmark in the project. I had some help on this batch from Matt at MTechMiniPainting. He's a seriously talented competition painter, a long-term Patreon supporter, and he came all the way over from the far side of Ireland to give me a hand. His Horus is one of the best painted minis I've seen in person. So if it happens to go missing and turns up later in the project, well, he'll figure it out when he watches this. We spent some time going over the models and bouncing ideas around, everything from colour placement and theme to how to really make the characters pop on the table. It's always great talking to someone who knows the technical side of painting and gets the feel of the heresy. I'd already done the base coats and some earlier airbrushing before he arrived, that way we could jump straight into refining the schemes. It turned into one of those proper good hobby days, lots of painting, easy conversation, ideas flying around. After so many late nights working alone, having someone else there just made a big difference. It actually felt kind of fun again instead of just another task to tick off the list. We don't really know each other that well, if I'm honest, but that's one of the best things about this hobby. You can sit down with anyone, someone new, and within an hour you're knee deep in chat about brushes, music, lore, campaign ideas, or whatever it is. It's just such an easy way to break the ice. Now, he wasn't here for long, but I'm so grateful for his time, so do make sure to check him out on Instagram and YouTube. I'll leave a link down below in the description. When he'd gone, I popped home to put the baby to bed, then came back out to the studio and carried on painting into the evening. It was just me, the models, and a nice quiet. No noise, no rush. One of those nights where everything just kind of clicked. That evening, I focused on Corax and Ferris, 2 of the absolute cornerstones of the story. I've painted Corax and Ferris before, twice actually, so it felt a bit like revisiting old ground, especially Corax. The sculpt I think still holds up and the black and white just suits him perfectly. And then, as if the hobby gods were shining down on me, a package from Little Legend Studios arrived just a few days later. Inside was something very special, my custom Fulgrim. He's been reworked ever so slightly with a new pose, grounding him, and with the new weapon. He's now holding the hammer he forged for Ferris, which is a small change I know, but one that hits hard, quite literally. Alongside him were Marius Ferocian, who you might remember from the last episode, and Lorgar Aurelian, the Primarch of the Wordbearers and one of the big villains in both this project and the Heresy itself. He's a flawed, fascinating character, and let's be honest, a bit of a naughty boy. I haven't managed to get my hands on the official Forge World Lorgar myself, which is becoming a bit of a running theme in this series, and I'm sure you'll see it crop up again. Having this version arrive felt like a win. Massive thanks to Miles for sending these over. The paint job on Fulgrim, especially the face and hair, is just incredible. It's the kind of work I know I couldn't do justice to, even if I had the time. Unboxing it all felt like a bit of a reset, a reminder of why I started this whole thing in the first place. So, seeing so many people come together to support this project, yeah, I'm genuinely grateful.
Yes, here I am putting the final touches on our favourite Primarch, Conrad Curze. And all in all, I'm pretty happy with the paint job. Ah, that's pretty cool. Here is some artsy shots of me looking at the finished mini that I didn't realise Ollie would be recording so close. So here I am trying to wedge his head on. I thought this was filler. I'm in the middle of your big, massive Warhammer Horus Heresy humongous collab project.
Yeah,
What inspired you to invite me, of all people, to collaborate with you?
I needed something for people to click on. So that's where you've come in. So the pressure is on a little bit because this all needs to be done.
For who?
For me. The whole project needs to be done pretty soon, and
in 2 days.
I think this is the first Primarch that's finished. So I've still got 5 to go.
Well done, me.
Yeah, I've got 5 to go with 2 extras. So if you fancy doing another Primarch.
I mean, he's not really finished.
No, I'm gonna have to finish him. But he's mostly finished, right?
But he is basically finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dropped him.
With the model at about 98% finished, there's just a few touches left to do. I glued the head into place. Now it's an awkward model because the head is looking down and to an angle, so quite difficult to capture everything here. One other thing missing on Conrad that I think really makes a cool difference is using some blood effects. Now I got blood for the blood god, loaded up a brush with a bit of water and blood for the blood god, and then splashed it with a burst from the airbrush, and that really helps spread the blood out in a really cool kind of natural way. Ciara did an absolutely great job on this model. I haven't done it justice here in the videography. It's probably one of the most difficult models I've had to shoot myself, whether that's through lighting or angles as well. You will see this one again on the full spinny rotational thing, along with a bit of a lore dump at the end of the whole series. So do stay tuned. Thank you, Ciara. You did an amazing job. Make sure to check her out over at Twitch as well. The links will be down in the description. With Conrad Curze gearing up for a showdown with his emo counterpart Corax and the Raven Guard, it only makes sense that he shouldn't have to face it all alone. If you hadn't guessed it already, yes, it's time for another collaborator. This time it's Paul from Midland Marauders. He's a fellow local to me, so it's fantastic to get some Irish representation on the board. One day, Paul was visiting the store and we got chatting about this project. Before he knew it, he'd generously offered to contribute to Legion, and as I know he's a Dark Angels player, it felt only fitting to pair him with the Night Lords. He absolutely nailed it. The contrast of deep blues and vivid reds, the lightning bolts on the greaves, and the use of the Legion transfer sheet all came together beautifully. The converted chainglaive on the 2.0 edition Praetor totally screams Night Lords. Although it's a slightly smaller detachment, having some loyal followers to accompany Conrad was perfect. Be sure to check out Paul's video in the playlist and give him a like and subscribe to support his stellar work on this project. Now we're back again, it's Legionometer time. Bing! The Night Lords are officially greenlit. More legions are rolling in and we're up to 5 with several Primarchs already complete. This is getting exciting. With the Raven Guard being the legion I've spent the most time on, I'm really keen to get these finished up. Leadbelcher is my go-to for a dark metallic base. It works really well, especially when followed up by a non-oil wash. The wash will help cover any small mistakes, which saves me time on touch-ups later on. It's not until you actually sit down and start painting that you realise just how long this stuff takes. Even though it doesn't seem like a ton of work on paper, the hours still pile up. I took the models home to work on the metallics, then brought them back in for the next stage. It's a technique I've really come to enjoy, and that's getting more popular lately. It's sponging. You've probably seen it all over by now. I just dip a sponge in a bit of paint, wipe off the excess, and then lightly dab it on the edges, almost like edge highlighting. It's also great for adding random chips, weathering effects, or helping blend in transfers. It's super simple and doesn't require a lot of skill. After the sponging, I usually go back in with the edge of a brush just to pick out any corners or raised areas that need a little extra highlight. And then you're done.
What a really good session. That's probably the most painting I've done in any one go yet. I've painted metallics on about 60 of the normal tactical guides, a couple of tanks are done, sponged everything. I really started working on the characters as well. I'm happy with the scheme, it's come together nicely. The only worry is there's still so much left to do.
Because of all that, I took the models home and probably spent a week or so applying the same sponge effect to the black armour using the highlight colour from the previous video. I also made more progress on the tanks. Filming every step really slows things down, so I had to just get stuck in, but this is where I've gotten to so far. I've been focusing on the units that will fill out the table and require the least amount of work, mainly the tactical and assault squads. The veterans, characters and some of the larger tanks haven't seen as much attention yet. I genuinely feel the army is looking good, I'm just not making progress as fast as I need to. It's for that reason I've had to do something I really didn't want to do. It's at this point I made a decision. I bought an army. Time has moved on and the window to film the finale is closing fast. It really wasn't something I wanted to do, and honestly I am a little disappointed in myself for having to resort to it. But Zorpazorp is arriving next week and I'm still so far off. I haven't been able to pick up the Fire Drakes or Pyroclast for the Salamanders from Forge World, so I had to pivot. I had to make a decision. I've already built a ton of the models, 40 tacticals, a spread of tanks, a few supporting units, but they're just undercoated, not exactly showcase ready. That's why I've avoided showing them to you. There just hasn't been anything worth seeing. But I can't afford to let this whole project fall apart, not now. Too many people have invested their time and effort into it, far too many for me to let it slide, so I had to act. Now that I have pulled them all out, I can see they're actually perfect for Istvaan. The tanks, the dreadnoughts, they are elements some of my other legions lack, and it gives this force a bit more weight. I'm genuinely really happy with what I've got here, but one thing I will do, and I want to do, is put my own stamp on them. Some highlights, extra transfers, fire effects, little touches like that make them feel more like mine. You will see that happen before the end. I've also got a few characters left to paint anyway, mainly Vulcan and Cassian Dracos. In my experience with second-hand armies, it's nearly impossible to match someone else's paint scheme completely, which is exactly why I bought everything here in one go instead of trying to piece it together. Characters at least can stand apart a little. That gives me some space to express myself in the details. Ultimately, I suppose I'm just thrilled to tick another Legion off the list at this point. With the Salamanders done and the Sons of Horus and Emperor's Children on their way, things are moving. And after all of that, the hours, the stress, the expense, everything came down to just 2 videos. My time is up. Lachlan arrives this afternoon. I'll get everything set out, head to Dublin to collect him, and then surprise him with this. Since you last saw anything, I've managed to get a bit more work done, but honestly, there's still a long way to go. I've got hundreds of models left to base, and that alone is going to eat up a chunk of time. We've got 10 days together, just 10. My only hope is that we can build the board in under a week, all while painting everything else at the same time. Then we set it up and shoot the finale. But I don't know. I really don't know if that's realistic. And I'm just hoping we can push through, pull it all together, and at least get close to done. I guess you have to check back in on the next episode and see how it all turns out. Time is against us. The pressure is on. Let's just hope nothing goes wrong from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.